Welcome to the fifth session of Art and Science of Eating. Yesterday, I was discussing about the uh, problems of meat eating and the way in which this habit of meat eating has been disturbing the human mindsets. Uh, the beings which evolved from apes were supposed to be more kind, more humane, and gradually, because of this one particular habit of wrong food, has converted almost 80 to 90% of the human population on this earth as cruel and selfish. In the name of food, people kill animals and birds regularly in a daily basis, and they expect that someday peace on earth will happen, and they expect that God will show His grace on them. There are some places here in Karnataka where systematically animals and birds are sacrificed for deities. And these people think that by sacrificing other animals and birds, the deities are becoming happy. If by sacrificing or killing or murdering, if the deities can become happy, then how are those deities in their nature? Those deities are also cruel, and these devotees are also cruel. Such deities never exist anywhere. Those existences cannot be called as deities. They can be some evil spirits. So any divine existence will not ask for killing of some other being, because life was given as a divine gift, and any divine existence will not ask for one more life in return. If such logic is there, then killing of anybody with anybody can be justified, murders can be justified, murders need not be punished, wars can be justified in their own way. So I really don't know. Just because of this particular habit of wrong food consumption, ever since the beginning, where people went astray from the main path, the frugivores became vegetarians, and vegetarians gradually became non-vegetarians due to some other reasons which I am going to tell you later on. There is one place in Karnataka, I'll not tell the name of the place. In that place, yearly once, one particular festival happens for a deity in the local village. It's a small village. For a particular deity, when the worship happens, thousands and thousands of goats are going to be killed. In their version, it is called sacrifice. Otherwise, they are going to be killed and murdered. The funny thing is, when a human being is murdered by some other human being, it comes in newspapers. There are more murders happening daily in the newspaper, it keeps coming. But when the same human beings murder the other beings, it is not called as murdering, it is called as killing or sacrificing. That is the hypocrisy of the human mind. So, in this particular village, in a year, when a festival happens, thousands and thousands of goat and sheep are murdered in the name of sacrifice, and their meat is taken out, and the meat is dried in the sunlight. When it is dried, that dried meat is given as the offering or prasada. In those particular 2 to 3 days, in the whole village, in the drainage, it is not the water which is flowing, it is the blood of these animals which are sacrificed is flowing. Such a cruel activity happens every year, and people think that by consuming that particular offering, the deity will be happy. But for decades together, these people have been doing this every year. In what way their lifestyle has increased, nobody knows. In what way their deity blessed them, nobody knows. Decades together, they have been involved in such sacrifices and such festivals. No change in their lifestyle, no change in their mindset. Now, is this called as evolution? Has their lifestyle changed? Except for those 3 days of meat eating, nothing else has changed. But what happened to their regular mindsets? They remained cruel that way, they remained selfish that way, remained evil that way. In what way the deity will be blessing them? Because of such blind faiths or blind beliefs, human beings are suffering because of this law of karma. Whatever you sow, so shall you reap, has been told by Jesus Christ in the Bible. Same thing is told in the Bhagavad Gita. There are so many parallels between the New Testament of the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. So many parallels. In the beautiful book Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramahamsa Yogananda relates both these books in a very systematic way. My interested audience should read this particular book called Autobiography of a Yogi. That book has got a special importance for me as well. That book is really a very special book. It has been referred as one of the reference books in the universities in California also, even for technical people. Unfortunately, the Indians are yet to value this particular book, which is written by an Indian yogi. Very beautiful book. There you read about the opinions of Paramahamsa Yogananda, how he relates Bhagavad Gita as well as the New Testament of the Bible. I am mentioning this book as a particular importance because there is one chapter there in that particular book called Sleepless Saint. That sleepless saint, his name there is Swami Kanakananda. In that book, his name is mentioned as Ram Gopal Mazumdar. Ram Gopal Mazumdar, he used to meditate for days together and he never used to sleep. After he took up sannyas, he was renamed as Swami Kanakananda Bhrigu. That Swami Kanakananda Bhrigu, he is the guru of Swami Geetananda Giri. Swami Geetananda Giri is the guru of Yogashri Narsimurti. And Yogashri Narsimurti is the guru of this particular stupid fool Aravinda. So Aravinda's guru's guru is Swami Kanakananda. He was called as the sleepless saint. I am fortunate that my guru is Narsimurti, his Paramaguru is Swami Geetananda Giri, and my Parameshti Guru, actually my Paramaguru is Swami Geetananda Giri, my Parameshti Guru is Swami Kanakananda Bhrigu or Swami Kanakananda Giri. They belong to the Dashanami Sampradaya of Adi Shankaracharya. So my interested audience, please go through that book, a very valuable book. So this law of karma is taking people into different directions, and as you sow, so you reap. Even in the Holy Quran, there are so many instances where the importance of the kindness is mentioned in so many places. I have read the Bhagavad Gita, I have read the Bible, I have read the Quran. And there is one Facebook page. There are two Facebook pages. One was started by a devotee Muslim and one more was started by a devotee Christian. And the Facebook page, both pages are named as Vegetarian Muslim Association and Vegetarian Christian Association. You can go through them. The highest abuse is there in the Vegetarian Muslim Association. It was started by a Muslim and he says that there are so many verses in the Holy Quran about vegetarianism, about showing kindness to creatures. And he says the daily in the daily way, the abuses which he gets on this particular page, he says, this is how my brothers are treating me. There are so many abusive sentences in that particular page, but he gives references in the Holy Quran itself about the food habit. That is why in Sanskrita we call it as prakshepa. Prakshepa means something gets added to the holy books also, to the spiritual scriptures also, over a period of time. We don't know who adds what to that. Just to give you an example, the current version of Bhagavad Gita contains around 700 verses. But in a museum in Singapore, a very old manuscript is kept. In that very old manuscript, there is a Bhagavad Gita manuscript also that contains only 70 verses. If that manuscript contains only 70 verses, now the current Bhagavad Gita contains 700 verses, from where the remaining 630 verses got added. But the good thing is that in the Bhagavad Gita there is a consistency. Even the verses are added over a period of time, there is a consistency. The meaning does not get corrupted or changed. So that way, we should be thankful to the people who add these verses. If you buy the Bhagavad Gita from a ISKCON publication or from a Ramakrishna Ashrama publication or a Chinmaya Mission publication, you just count the number of verses in those publications, you will find differences. Some book will have 700, some book will have 701, 702, 703, 704. If this difference is there in the verses, how come the differences came in the number of verses? Which simply means that over a period of time, when people make copies of the books, somewhere somebody adds their own verses. This in Sanskrit we call it as prakshepa. It is the same case with Puranas. It is the same case with Mahabharata. When Vyasa wrote the Bharata, it was called as Jaya. Okay, it was containing only 8,000 shlokas. Then Vyasa's disciple, Vaishampayana, he expanded it by adding some more stories. Then it was called as Bharata. Then it was having 24,000 verses. Later on, Vaishampayana's next generation, they added more and more stories. And Shaunakadi Maharshis started depicting the stories of Mahabharata, and then it was called as Mahabharata with 1 lakh shlokas, which means initially it was Jaya, then it was Bharata, then it was Mahabharata. So over a period of time, over a period of centuries, even books will have their own editions, sometimes good editions, sometimes bad editions. We should be careful about choosing what we have to study, what we want to study. We cannot simply defend those books that way. We cannot say that Veda Vyasa wrote all the Puranas, because in some of the Puranas, very dirty, vulgar stories are there. There is a story of Shunashepa, and there is a story of so many other obscene characters where Indra comes and enjoys some other rishi's wife, and that child which is born becomes blind. All such obscene and vulgar stories are in the Puranas. We cannot say that the person who wrote the Bhagavad Gita, the person who wrote the Brahma Sutra, he could also write obscene and vulgar stories in the Puranas. Definitely, it was not written by Veda Vyasa. It was added on later on by some other evil minds or corrupt minds. Similarly, the Kama Sutra was written by Vatsyayana. He was a saint. Kama Sutra is not the sutra for sex. It is the sutra for desires and enjoyment of life as such. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, these are called 4 Chaturvidha Purushartha. So in that, through Dharma, earn your Artha, through Dharma, earn your Kama, through Dharma, attain your Moksha. Through righteousness, earn money, earn wealth. Through righteousness, enjoy your life and fulfill your desires. Through righteousness, attain liberation and salvation. That was the meaning of Chaturvidha Purushartha. That is where Vatsyayana wrote it. But the present Kama Sutra which is available, it is highly corrupt and obscene book. And we don't know who did that way. Vatsyayana is not there now, and we don't know over a period of time who polluted all these scriptures. It is the same case with other scriptures also on this earth. We don't know who added what in the process of translation, what people do with the translated books, and what all they add into those books. So coming to my point, in those particular 2 pages of Vegetarian Muslim Association and Vegetarian Christian Association, just go through that, just find out the amount of abusive content which the person who started the page is getting. But he is having enough patience, and he simply keeps saying that they are looking for peace and they are actually spoiling the peace. Let me go on further. Don't ask me why I am a vegetarian. Ask yourself why you are not. Till now I have told you, humans were evolved from apes, and gradually humans were supposed to be more kind and more considerate for the other beings on earth. So don't ask me why I am a vegetarian. I become a vegetarian by my own logic. I understood life as it is. Ask yourself why you are not. If any of you are meat eaters, now I'll tell you the reasons why you are meat eaters. You are not meat eaters on your own. These are the reasons. As humans are evolved from apes, it is obvious that humans are frugivores. The reasons for becoming meat eaters are increase in population and lack of vegetation. The lands like Arabia, where people migrated from the other side of Israel. They came this side. Centuries before, people from Egypt migrated toward Israel along with Moses. And after many centuries, gradually people migrated from the places of Israel towards Saudi Arabia due to their various reasons, due to their own reasons. There are many historical reasons where people used to fight with each other for centuries together. So those who did not want to fight, they were evicted out of the places and they came all the way. When they came to Arabia, they did not have sufficient food there. So when there was no sufficient food available, they developed the habit of meeting eat. Even now, the people who live in Mongolia and the people who live in Greenland, the Eskimos, even now they are habitual meat eaters. Eskimos are mostly fish eaters because they have nothing available there to eat as food. So, the reasons for becoming meat eaters are increase in population and lack of vegetation. I just want to give you an analogy. The analogy is, in general, uh, heaven and hell concept, when it is there is a belief in some sects that heaven is full of gardens and hell is fire. The Hindu concept of heaven is there Indra, there damsels, apsaras, and it is a lot of dancing and music. The Hindu concept of hell is there is a Yama and there are boilers with oil, and Yama will have an assistant called Chitragupta. This is a metaphor and it is a analogy. I'll not go into the analogy, the meaning of the analogy right now, because if I tell all the inner meanings of all these allegories or metaphors, some of my audience they become seriously upset. So in this session, I am not going to tell you all that. If you remain with me till the fourth session, there you remember this and you ask me once again, I am going to tell all that in detail because I am going to discuss all these belief systems in my fourth presentation. So right now I will not get into that. But the concept of heaven and concept of hell, even though heaven is not there, hell is not there, they had their own imaginations of heaven and hell. And it was told that heaven is full of gardens and hell is full of fire. Imagine why it was so. Full of garden and water means wherever there was no vegetation and water, they thought of some beautiful place where there will always be water and food. So heaven was full of gardens. Hell is full of fire means when there is no rain, when there is no water, and there is a scorching sunlight and heat everywhere, naturally that is hell. That is how they developed the concept of heaven and hell. So, increase in population and lack of vegetation. When there was no vegetation, when they had to survive, they had to find out the mechanisms to survive. That is when they started eating meat. Even in the Hindu Puranas, there is a story of Vishwamitra eating dog's flesh. When Vishwamitra came out of Samadhi, he had become heavily hungry, and when he found out around him the whole forest was burnt because of the tapas of himself. Because of his penance, around him heavy heat had developed and all plantation had gone because of his own penance. But when he came out of Samadhi, he was very much hungry and he searched for food. There was no food anywhere. He came searching for food. He found out a place of one Chandala, an outcast person. That Chandala, when there was no vegetation anywhere, for survival, the Chandala had killed his own dog and he was cooking his own dog's flesh. And Vishwamitra came there and put his hand into the vessel and ate the dog's flesh. Now Chandala asked him that me being an outcast, me being a Chandala, for my survival, I am eating my own dog's flesh. You being a sage saint, why are you eating dog's flesh? Then Vishwamitra said, till now I was in Samadhi, so I did not feel hunger. As soon as I woke up, my body developed hunger. My sense organs are working. I cannot bear the hunger now. When I cannot bear the hunger, if I sustain the hunger, I am going to collapse and I am going to die. That's why I have no other option than to eat this flesh, whatever you are baking. Later on, let me think about survival. So this is a story which is there in the Puranas. So this simply means when people have to survive, they cannot think about what is right and what is wrong. then the survival becomes right for the first place. That is the reason when population increased, when there was lack of vegetation, and again when there was population increase and when they migrated to different places like Greenland, like Mongolia, they became meat eaters habitually. They remain meat eaters even now. Increase in population and social conditioning. Now somebody found out that cooking meat and adding salt, adding spices, and chewing on that, that gives a sensory enjoyment, and they started using this as a means for some other worship or some other sacrifice or meat eating and dancing in the night and all those customs they developed. And gradually, whatever father did, son did, whatever son did, grandson did, it went on that way. It went on that way. For centuries together, it went on that way, and the social conditioning was the cause. For example, in my audience, if there are some meat eaters, you became meat eaters because your parents were meat eaters, their parents were meat eaters, their parents, it goes on like that. Some 2 weeks before, my one old yoga student brought one of his acquaintances, one daughter and one mother, to me and asked me to give her some suggestions about health maintenance. Her both kidneys were on the verge of failure and she was undergoing dialysis from the past 20-25 days. She was hardly 26-27 years old. In that small age, she had a serious kidney problem. And I asked her, what is your lifestyle? She said, I am normal. There is nothing changed. I am normal. My lifestyle is normal. But in the age of 26-27, if the kidneys are failed, there is something seriously wrong happening in their lifestyle. When I kept on pressing, the girl did not answer, but the mother opened up and the mother openly answered that, sir, in whatever way I tell them, my daughter and my husband, they regularly eat chicken on a daily basis. And even when my daughter was a kid also, my husband used to bring chicken daily and he used to say we should enjoy life, and he used to make the small kid also eat chicken, and eating chicken on a daily basis has become a habit. Then I understood that is the prime cause for her kidney failure. When they keep on eating chicken meat on a daily basis, actually chicken meat is going to increase the heat of the body and the body requires more and more of water. If she is unable to drink regularly more and more of water into her system, then the gradually kidney gets drained out and kidney becomes weak. I told her, if you want to become normal again, then you have to stop this meat eating right now. Only then I am going to give you suggestions. And then I gave her some suggestions. Later on, I told her, even if I give all these suggestions, I don't have a faith that you will stop your eating meat habit, because as soon as you go home, your father may again press you again to eat meat. For one day you came to me, I gave you some suggestions. From last few decades he has been telling you, and you are bound to obey whatever for decades he has been telling you. I don't have faith. They both laughed and went. Later on, I don't know what happened with them. I'll tell you one point, my dear audience. Generally, there's a proverb which says that a lie told 1,000 times becomes a truth. Sorry, I disagree. A lie told 1,000 times becomes 1,000 lies. Truth, even if it is untold, truth remains truth. It does not mean that a lie told 1,000 times will become a truth. A lie told 1,000 times, 1,000 people may listen to it, 1,000 people may believe that it is a truth. Lie remains a lie. Truth, even if it is untold, truth remains a truth. Water is cold, fire is hot. This is the truth. If somebody tells or somebody does not tell, the truth remains the same. If somebody says that the fire is cool, let us say 1,000 people keep saying that fire is cool, fire is cool, fire is cool. It remains 1,000 lies. It does not become a truth. But the social conditioning, as I had told you in the earlier sessions, that majority are foolish and minority are wise here. Majority of people, whatever they talk, whatever they listen, they think that it is true. I directly say that there is no heaven, there is no hell. There is no heaven, there is no hell. But people think, people believe all the stories, allegories. People think there is a heaven somewhere, there is a hell somewhere. There is nothing as such. People who did not understand the holy scriptures, people who did not understand the Atma Vidya or Brahma Vidya, people did not have listened to the people who are self realized. These are the people who develop such stories and they keep on imagining that some other place or something is there. My dear audience, watch all those movies of Christopher Nolan, the movie, beautiful movie called Gravity, the beautiful movie Inception, the beautiful movie Interstellar. Watch that movie Interstellar. Then you'll understand why I am telling all these things. People spoil the atmosphere on earth and people think that someday they will go elsewhere and they will have a peaceful life. Why don't they try for a peaceful life on this earth itself by living in sync with nature, living in harmony with nature? That they don't do. They think that someday in some other planet they will establish their life, which is really very stupid. So, increase in population and social conditioning, that is the thing. And increase in laziness for agriculture, because agriculture requires a lot of patient work. Half of your life you should be working with the mud, you should be working with worms and frogs, and you should be working with a lot of water, manure, cow dung, all those things. It requires a lot of dedication to work as an agriculturist. Now, these people who don't want to work hard that way, they will easily feel that if there are animals around, we can kill them, we can fry them in fire, we can burn them, or we can boil them, and we can use oil, we can use masala for garnishing. Why to go for agriculture? So, increase in laziness for agriculture, that is one reason why people went for meat eating. And finally, increase in the stupidity of justification for the systematic murder of the other living beings. For our food, we kill them and we keep on justifying. It is basically systematic murder. We don't agree that. Only when a human is murdered, we say that it is a murder. When an animal is murdered or a bird is murdered, we say it is simply killing for the sake of food. Especially in India, there is no need of meat eating, especially in India, because India is rich in vegetation. India is a blessed land by the divine, and it is rich in vegetation. It is rich in its fruits and vegetables. There is enough land for agriculture here. If people dedicate themselves for organic farming, organic agriculture, food is not a scarcity in the land of India. Food may be a scarcity in Mongolia, it may be a scarcity in Greenland, it might have been a scarcity few centuries before in Arabia. Now, even in Arabia, vegetation is not a scarcity. Greenland, even now, vegetation is a scarcity because the seasons are different there. There, agriculture may not be possible at all. In the Arctic region where Eskimos live, agriculture may not be possible at all. In the lands like Sweden and Norway, for 6 months they will have a drastic weather condition. So their living itself is a big challenge there. There we cannot say that all this type of agriculture is possible. Still they are trying. Even in Sweden and Norway they are trying. Even in Japan they have tried a lot. But in Japan also, maximum population, they regularly consume fish because country is small, people are more, and that much of agriculture is not possible with them. They are dependent on the ocean around and they consume fish. Buddha told Ahimsa Paramo Dharmaha. Now, if Buddha comes back and he looks at the Chinese and Japanese consuming meat, Buddha will say, I will never come back again. People say that Jesus Christ is coming back. Why he will come back? If at all he comes back, he will definitely go back. Because he said, I am going to take all your sins with me. But when he comes and says that people keep sinning and he has to keep on coming back for taking back the sins, have people stopped sinning? Moses told, those who shall not live by the law shall die by the law. Those who shall not follow the 10 commandments, they shall die by the law. Still, people do not understand. People think that someday Jesus Christ will come. He will never come. And Buddha, whatever he told, people are not following. The very Tibetans who are following a lot of Buddhism, even they consume meat. Once with my college students, we had gone to this Bailakuppe Tibetan camp, and there was a big festival going on, some celebration going on, beating of gongs and red colored, yellow colored dresses, some strange type of dancing, everything was going on. We watched it nearly for 1 hour. It was fantastic. The dancing ceremony was fantastic. All of them were monks. It was fantastic. After the ceremony is over, some priest was there. He kept on offering something in a small bronze vessel. Everybody went there, they extended their palm. He kept on putting it. And even my students went there. I also went there. He put some jelly like thing on my palm. And when I came back, they said this is the offering after the festival. Everybody started licking it. I just smelled it. It was a foul smell thing. When it was a foul smell thing, I sensed something different and I did not consume it. I simply threw it out. I asked my students how was it. Say that it was very sour and it was like some dirty item. And later on, I found out it was called as chang. That chang was one type of alcoholic item prepared using barley. Alcoholic item prepared using barley, they used to offer it as prasada or offering. Now, where is Buddha and where are these people? There was a small temple in Bangalore near the Mayo Hall. Now that temple is not there. There was a big tree there. Big banyan tree was there. Later it was cut. Now it has become a shopping mall there. In that big banyan tree, below the big banyan tree, there was usually a small statue and there used to be worship happening. For that worship, the priest used to come and he used to light a cigarette. It was not an incense stick, one cigarette. And he used to offer not water, he used to offer arak. And that was given as prasada to the devotees there. Even now, in some places where there is a temple of Bhairava, they offer arak and toddy as prasada and they light beedi cigarette instead of incense sticks. That means, who is Bhairava? We should wonder now. We should really wonder. Shiva's one form is Bhairava. We should wonder when Shiva started drinking arak and when Shiva started smoking cigarette. We should really wonder. It is the stupid people who do not understand the divinity within themselves. They develop such customs and they tell to others, this is how we satisfy the Lord. I'll tell you a very funny instance from Mysore to Hunsur. On the way, there was a milestone. Now, the same milestone is a Mailigalamma temple. It was a milestone. To the milestone, somebody put some flowers, somebody some kumkum, somebody put some turmeric powder, and after some time, somebody erected a temple. Now, the temple is called as Mailigalamma temple, temple of a milestone. Now, can a milestone become God? One stone, can it be worshipped as God? This is all the belief system of the stupid people. So, stupidity of justification for the systematic murder of the other living beings. No matter what reason, no human being has the right to make an animal suffer. No matter what reason, no human being has the right to make all these animals suffer. No matter what reason. I have less audience today because yesterday I went on talking about meat eating only. Some people have consciously decided not to attend my sessions anymore. Maybe. But it's a loss for them because from now on I'm going to tell you a lot of health tips and lot of suggestions. Till now, whatever I told was I wanted to tell people in what way they are all wrong. From now on, I'm going to tell how they can live right. But if people do not have the patience or commitment to continue with my sessions, they may not be agreeing with my sentences and they may not want to continue. It is up to them. Okay. Now, before discussing, till now I discussed all these bad things which people were doing. Before discussing this particular chart, I just want to cover the two pending questions which I was having. Is Sham there and is Gopi there? They were asking me questions. Gopi is there and is Sham there? Sham is not there, but Sri Ram is there. Anyway, I'll answer first Sham's question, then later on I'll come to Gopi's question. Later on I'll tell you a small story. So Sham's question was to discuss acupuncture. Human beings have been searching for different mechanisms. Okay, Sri Ram says we both are here. Good, good. They both are brothers. Good that both are listening. Human beings have been suffering due to their lifestyle related reasons. And they used to suffer due to these food habits as well. And in almost all parts of earth, every human being wanted to live healthy. And for centuries together, people kept on studying their own bodies about why they lose health and how they can regain the health. समदोष समाग्निश्च समधातु मलक्रियः प्रसन्न आत्म इंद्रियमनाः स्वस्थ इत्यभिधीयते is told in Ayurveda. So acharyas like Charaka, Sushruta, Vagbhata, they had formulations about how a healthy living is possible. That happened in India here. But the same search for health was there in different places. So in China also, people used to suffer a lot. China, nearly half of the China is desert. Remaining half of China is having good plantation and vegetation. And even there, drastic weather conditions or food scarcity or meat eating or in whichever way, people used to suffer. So people kept on searching for different methodologies of finding out how to live healthy. So in general, these people went into deep states of meditation. Even in China, even in India, they went into deep states of meditation. And they kept on thinking, focusing, thinking on the body. Now in these deep states of meditation, they found out that there are some subtle places in this body itself. They could observe the dead bodies and they could dissect the dead bodies, and in the dead bodies they could identify the organs also, that this is stomach, this is liver, this is heart, this is intestine. They could not really detect the nerves as such. There are very minute nerves. Now we know that these nerves exist, neurons exist, red blood cells exist. After the advent of the microscope, we are able to see all these things. After the advent of the telescope, we are able to see the universe around us also. But in those days, neither microscope was there, nor telescope was there. Their personal experience was their proof. So they kept on observing their own body, and then they came to know there are some hidden points in this body. Those hidden points where the nerves end. Generally, these nerves end in the palms and in the feet, and the nerves originate from the brain. And these nerves are two-way. That means from the feet to the head, they will move the sensory experience, and from the brain to the feet, they move the motor experience. We have sensory organs, we have motor organs. We have Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha as our five senses. They are input organs. Whereas we have Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upastha. These are motor organs. Our two hands, our two legs, our urinary organ, and our rectum excretory organ, and the mouth. These are called motor organs, where we perform actions, whereas our eyes, our ears, our skin, our nostrils, and our tongue, they are input organs. So these saints who meditated, they could relate that sensory organs and motor organs are interrelated and interconnected by means of nerves, and all these nerves go through the spinal cord. All these nerves have offshoots or branches within the spinal cord, and the nerves can go on till palms and feet. So these Chinese found out a method that if you keep on pressing some points on the palm or some points on the feet, that particular nerve which is ending there is also connected to the brain there. So it is like a remote control. They also found that on the palm, if you keep on pressing, if let us say somebody has some pain in the body, let us say somebody has got a liver pain, if he presses a certain point on the palm, he will experience pain on the palm also. Now they identified that point on the palm as the one that is connected to the liver. Now through continuous experimentation of this particular thing, they noted so many points on the palm for all internal organs, and even on the feet for all internal organs. This system they call it as acupressure. Acupressure means in the palm you have all those points. All those points are connected to the internal organs through the nervous system only. So if you press it here, gradually it will send the stimuli there, and through the continuous sending of the stimuli, gradually the circulation internally will increase, and gradually that organ will gain its health. This was a remote controlled method where you press somewhere else and action happens somewhere else. It is just like a switch. Switch on the wall you press and the bulb on the ceiling will glow. They are connected through a wire. That system was called as acupressure. This acupressure even all of you can try. It is very safe, very sound, but the results will not come immediately. Results will not come suddenly. Acupressure in China, the same method here in India, in the yogic science, they developed mudras, Chin Mudra, Chinmaya Mudra, Adi Mudra, Brahma Mudra, Meru Mudra, Bhairava Mudra, Bhairavi Mudra, Abhaya Mudra, Anjali Mudra, so many mudras. There are hundreds of mudras. These mudras are used in yoga also, mudras are used in Bharatanatyam also, the mudras are used during tantric worship also. So, a certain holding of the hand with some fingers joined together, it will have some effect on the nervous system that they found out. Chinese found out acupressure for the system of healing. Here in India, they found out the mudras for the tantric method of spiritual practice. Later on, they used the same thing even in dance forms. This was the basis of acupressure. Then the Chinese also went one step ahead. Indians also went one step ahead. Chinese went one step ahead. For a patient to keep on pressing, it may not be possible. Patient may not be so much expert in detecting that particular point. If at all a patient presses elsewhere, then it may induce a disease. Patient may press wrong places. So, acupressure has to be practiced slowly and steadily, where a patient himself may have to try it. If at all patient has to keep on coming to the healer or the doctor, whoever it is, now the doctor has to spend a lot of time on the patient's body for acupressure itself. Instead, can we induce a small amount of pain which may not be a pain at all? When we induce a small amount of pain in the body by means of needles, let us say we press some needles at some points, let us say these nerves get stimulated, and through the stimulation of the nerves, let health happen. That was called as acupuncture. And Chinese never used to practice acupuncture alone. They always used to give herbal medicines also, and they always used to try acupuncture also. It was tried together. Acupuncture alone may not yield all best results always. So they used to have herbal medicines also, bodily purification also, diet control also, along with that acupuncture also as an accelerator. Now Indians also had a method called Marmakriya. They found out that in this body there are 108 Marmasthanas, secret points where that particular point is pressed, something else will happen. In Kerala, there is a fighting art called Kalaripayat. In that Kalaripayat, if there are experts, they will teach this Marmasthana to the disciples or the students. If it is hit, that somebody will faint. If it is hit, he will paralyze. All these are already known. I don't know. I have not studied these. Don't ask me these questions. People may be experts in knowing if at all we press somebody, some lady, some part, will we get her? She should become our partner. Is it possible? All gents who are in my audience may be eager to know. Sorry, I don't know. Don't ask me. I have not studied the Marmasthanas. I don't know. Those 108 Marmasthanas, let them there wherever they are. But they found out there are some secret plexuses or secret joints, maybe the joints of the nerves. If they are pressed properly, then some other thing will happen in the body. I'll just ask you one question. You answer yourself on your own. When you have these goosebumps, we call it as romanchana. When you have goosebumps, what actually is a goosebump? All the hairs on your body stand straight. You will feel one ecstatic experience, or you will feel blissful and so happy at that time. due to your own feeling. Now, who induced it? You only induced it through your own thought forces. Everybody will not get goosebumps that way. You will get goosebumps only when you become extremely devoted or extremely happy or extremely joyful or extremely respectful, in whichever way. You listen to a song of a music composed by Ilayaraja, you will get goosebumps. Many times I used to get goosebumps when that invincible Ilayaraja, in his particular song, there used to be some music, especially one film called Apuro Sahodarargal. In that Apura Sahodarargal, Kamal Haasan double role. And there was that great lady, I think she is Manorama, she is no more now. I think her name is Manorama. And she was nurturing these kids, Kamal Haasan double role. And she was carrying these kids in a stream, in a boat, and there was a background score. Now also, when I remember the background score, right now I am having goosebumps. Great music which Ilayaraja composed. And when you listen to such music, you will have goosebumps. Now, who induced these goosebumps? Your own thought forces, your own memory. Now, that is a marma. Marma means secret. This is a secret that mind can induce, memory can induce such feelings in the body. Now, we can induce joyous feelings, we can induce faintness also, we can induce paralysis also. So, that was called marmasthana. There are people who teach this marma even now, they charge heavily. My intention is not to study any of these things, so I have not gone into that domain at all. I will never go into that domain at all. Those are the people, most of them have become heavily money minded now. For 2 days workshop, they charge 15,000 rupees now to teach you all these marmas. And that is their marma of taking 15,000 from you. You will learn about 108 marmasthanas, that is the secret places. Their secret is that they will take 50,000 from you for 2 days workshop. That is their secret, which you don't know. Okay. The greatest secret is that the God is the indwelling self. That is the greatest secret. That secret I know, and that is enough for me. I don't have to know any other 108 secrets. So, coming back to this acupuncture, Chinese gradually understood that by pressing needles in some points called these marmas only. They don't call it as marmas, they call it as acupuncture points. Somewhere in the fingertips, they will put these needles, and somewhere in the cheeks also, somewhere near the neck also, in different places, they put these needles. They don't put needles just like that. Later on, they will give herbal medicines also. Now, parallelly, all these mechanisms will work out to get a good health. But I took my wife for acupuncture therapy for nearly 1 month. For each session, he used to take 500 rupees nearly 10 years before. 2000 rupees, 10 years before, 2000 rupees was a great amount. Each session, he used to charge 500 rupees. He used to put some needles into her toes and her thumbs and fingers and like that. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. My wife was not obedient to me at that time about yoga or Ayurveda or whatever. She has two surgeons in her own family. She used to believe only the modern medical system or the English or British medical system, whatever it is. She used to consume a lot of pills at that time. And when the pills did not work out, somebody took her for acupressure therapy also, somewhere near Salem. She used to go through train only. That also did not work out. And then she tried this acupuncture because she was not believing in my yogic tips or Ayurvedic tips. So I told her that is her fate, and I took her to the acupuncture therapist. Actually, to tell you frankly about the truth, when she went to the doctor who was giving treatment for my asthma earlier, later on the doctor came to know that I practice pranayama, I have asthma no more, and I have been practicing pranic healing. For one of the patients of the doctor himself, I had taken pranic healing treatment for nearly 1 month, and that lady had recovered. Later on, the doctor started telling to my wife that, why are you coming to me when you have your own doctor at home? But my wife did not believe me at that time. Now also, I don't know whether she believes me fully or not. That is why I said, okay, acupuncture, whatever you want to try, you try out. We tried out, nothing happened. From last 1 year, she is undergoing treatment with Dr. Girdhar Kaje, Prashanti Ayurvedic Center, after my continuous suggestions from last 15 years. Now, every day, very sincerely, my wife practices yoga abhyasa. The first person who uses maximum extent of my audio recordings of Yogasana is my own wife. At least that way she is remaining healthy now. But acupuncture did not work out for her health. Okay. I think this much is enough for the Shams question. Now coming to the question of Gopi. Gopi asked me about virus. This will take me some more time now. Okay, it is 8:30 now. Now to talk about virus, it takes me some more time. Let me take a small break of drinking water. Now, more details I cannot give you about consciousness or about the joining of the natural elements to become life. All those questions I cannot address right now. That is a bigger subject for which I will be discussing all those things only in my last session. But as far as this virus is concerned, in nature, God producers, consumers, decomposers. Producers are plants, consumers are animals, decomposers are these microorganisms or bacteria. So as long as the plant is growing, plant will be yielding fruits, and those fruits will be eaten by monkeys, let us say, or humans, let us say. If a monkey dies, after some time the monkey's body will get decomposed, which means inside the monkey's body these bacteria were already present. These bacteria were waiting for their chance of multiplying once when death happened. Right now in my body, in your bodies, these bacteria are there. Right now these bacteria are inactive. These bacteria will become active only when death happens, when the body decomposes and the body decays. Right now the respiration which is happening, it is with the oxygen. Okay. Now, after the death happens, there will be one more type of respiration happening. That happens without oxygen. Right now the respiration is happening through oxygen, glucose plus oxygen. When the decay of the body happens, that is a anaerobic respiration. Right now whatever is happening is the aerobic respiration. This anaerobic respiration is the yield of energy for these microorganisms or bacteria. These bacteria only cause this anaerobic respiration for their own energy. When they multiply, this body completely disintegrates and decays, and then people say that this body is stinking and having foul smell, because that anaerobic respiration, it is going to produce an alcohol, and alcohol will be stinking, C2H5OH. That is called anaerobic respiration. Why I am telling all these things is how bacteria as a microorganism works as a decomposer. So there is a producer, there is a consumer, there is a decomposer. Now this decomposer is basically a parasite. Don't ask me the question now why God did all these things. God had to do all these things because whatever is created has to be destroyed someday, isn't it? Whatever is having a form and shape, due to aging, someday it has to go. If it has to go, if it does not go, then the variety of life cannot be designed or manufactured. There can be a monotonous life here if same thing remains forever. So whatever is born has to die. That is the law of nature. Why it has to happen? Again, don't ask me now. Wait till my fourth session. Now these decomposers are bacteria. They are right now in my body. They are right now in your body. They are waiting for us to die. Right now they are harmless. They are not doing anything. But they are right now, they are in every body. If at all inside blood gets infested by toxins, or if at all inside the stomach is affected, stomach is dirty, intestine is dirty, then what happens? You are giving a scope for these bacteria to multiply. If you don't want to give a scope for this bacteria to multiply, you should keep your stomach clean, you should keep your lungs clean. That is the option. That's why I have been stressing from the beginning, every day 30 minutes you should have devoted your time for physical exercise. I have been continuously telling you, you cannot ignore your body, you cannot leave it simply like that. Every day 30 minutes you should dedicate for physical exercise. If that is the case, then all the muscles will be working fine, all the nerves will be efficient, and blood will be being pumped to all corners of the body. As long as the blood is pumped to all corners of the body, and during physical exercise, if you have enough breathing exercise, then more and more of oxygen will go into the blood, and the oxygenated, energetic blood will flow to all corners of the body. Your body remains clean and energetic. You are not allowing anaerobic respiration to happen, because only aerobic respiration keeps on happening. If at all you give a chance for anaerobic respiration to happen, that is when these bacteria multiply. So when these bacteria multiply, more and more chance is given, they will multiply more. When they multiply more, gradually the onset of diseases internally will happen. During death, anyhow, it is going to happen at death. This is about bacteria. Now what about virus? Bacteria has life. Bacteria is basically a polymeric chain. It's a joining of so many amino acidic chains. It's a polymeric being. It can move. It can multiply. All cells, they will multiply just by division. One cell, it will divide itself into two. It will become two. It is asexual reproduction. It is not a sexual reproduction. There are no two beings required for such reproduction. The same being becomes two. For example, an earthworm, if you cut it into half, automatically one end will develop a mouth and one end will develop a rectum. It will become two earthworms on its own. That is asexual reproduction. In the same way, bacteria multiply, amoeba multiply. All the microorganisms, they will multiply just by dividing. Division itself is multiplication. They can become 2, 2 can become 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16, 32, 64, 128, goes on like that. After some time, it becomes exponential. 1024 becomes 2048, 2048 becomes 4096, 4096 becomes 9000 odd, and it goes on. Later on, it becomes exponential. Suddenly, they can multiply. When they multiply that way, they completely conquer your body. You only gave them a chance to multiply. If you would not have given a chance to multiply, they would not become double, quadruple, and 4, 8, 16, 32. They would not multiply exponentially. That is when you ignored your body. Okay? This is the simple principle. You don't give them a chance to multiply, they will never multiply. Watch this movie, Gods Must Be Crazy Part 2. Beautiful movie, comedy movie. There are hero and heroine are stuck up. I use the term hero and heroine. Actually, in the English movie, there are no hero and heroine. They are stuck up. The helicopter is stuck on the top of a tree. They come down. Heroine comes down. Hero is up on the tree. And she finds all crazy noises around her. Hyenas are making noises. Different creatures around her are making noises. And she tells to the person on top of tree, there are a lot of noises. There are a lot of animals around. Then he simply says, you don't bother them, they don't bother you. You don't bother them, they don't bother you. Same way. Right now in the body, there are these bacteria which are parasitic and they are already there in the system. You don't bother them, they don't bother you. That's all. You don't give them a chance to multiply, they will not multiply. They will wait for the breathing to stop. They will wait for the heart to stop. When the heart stops, when the breathing stops, when the brain stops working, they will take over the body. They will decompose this. That's all. This fact you have to accept as it is. This is the fact. Now think about a cruel God. Think about a graceful God. God is neither graceful. God is neither cruel. He is neither cruel nor graceful. God is beyond the body. God is not a person at all. Now don't ask me questions why God made like this. Wait till my fourth session. Coming back to virus now. Bacteria has life, it can multiply, it has asexual reproduction. Now virus is in between matter and life. Virus is a non-living formulation. And that non-living formulation, when it comes in contact with the living cell, it goes into the living cell, and when that living cell multiplies, automatically the living cell itself becomes 2, it becomes 4, it becomes 8. It's a replica of the first living cell. If the living cell is having virus inside, automatically because of this cellular division, the cells become 2. Both 2 cells will have a copy of the virus now. Virus is like a very microscopic soap bubble. Almost all viruses are microscopic soap bubbles, and they don't have life. A virus cannot move on its own. Cell can move on its own. Living cell, bacteria can move its own. Living cell can move on its own. Virus cannot move on its own. Okay. And viruses are nothing new. Even the present coronavirus is nothing new. It was discovered by scientists in 1940 itself. They named it as corona because it was having a crown structure. When they looked in the microscope, it was having a crown structure. In Greek language, corona means crown. That is how they named it as corona. Chinese did not invent it. In Europe itself, in the 1940s itself, people had discovered it. Viruses are nothing new. Your common cold is also a virus. There are so many viruses. These viruses are non-moving, non-living chemical formulae. But they will multiply. Actually, they will not multiply. When they get into the red blood cell, when the red blood cell multiplies, automatically it's a replica. It is happening. Okay. So viruses are non-moving, and that is why viral fever will not have a cure. Bacterial fever will have a cure. Any fever or any disease where bacteria is there, for which there is a cure. That cure, for killing the bacteria, they find out a chemical and they will ingest the chemical into the body. If this chemical goes into the bloodstream, in the bloodstream, if it comes in contact with the bacteria, it will kill the bacteria. When the bacteria comes in contact with this particular chemical, bacteria will lose its body. Bacteria's body will get disintegrated when it comes in contact with this chemical. That is how you have paracetamol, ibuprofen, all types of drugs and tablets in the English medical system. In the Ayurvedic medical system, you will have Amritarishta, Arjunarishta, Dashamularishta. Ayurveda goes for roots and herbs and leaves, and allopathy goes for direct synthesis of chemicals. It is the same medicine used in two different perspectives. Again, I am not going to discuss Ayurveda right now. I am going to discuss Ayurveda when I come to those slides in this presentation only at the end. I am going to discuss about it. I am going to discuss about Chyavanprasha in detail. But this is the way, if the bacteria need to be treated, it is possible by such medicines. But for virus, there is no medicine as such, because virus is non-living. When virus is non-living, we don't know when it is going to multiply. We don't know when it is going to multiply. We don't have some chemical which can kill this life. If bacteria is moving, we can kill this bacteria through a medicine. Virus is non-moving. How to kill it? All viruses are non-moving, or viruses are non-living. Viruses are in between matter and life. Plain matter also is like that. But plain matter also, there are harmful things. Even in plain matter, arsenic is there. Arsenic is a harmful thing. There are harmful things, there are harmless things in nature. Microscopic elements are also, some of them are harmful, some of them are harmless. Some of them are beneficial. Same way, this is a virus which is a chemical combination. Okay. Now, even for a common cold, there is no cure. Generally, there is a proverb which says that for a common cold, if you take medicine, you will get cured in 7 days. If you don't take medicine, you will get cured in 1 week. Both are one and the same. Now, if a common cold virus multiplies inside your body, let us say your body develops more and more of white blood cells. For example, in the thymus gland, there is a special type of white blood cell called T lymphocytes. These T lymphocytes carry a memory of the previous ailment. So, let us say you had a cold earlier. Next time when you have a cold, naturally the T lymphocytes remember the previous ailment. They develop such antibodies much larger in number, so that you will get cured of cold. So, these T lymphocytes are the warriors of the body. So, for viruses, when there is no medicine, there is no point in inventing a vaccine also. People are right now waiting that someday for corona, vaccine will be invented, and after vaccine is invented, if the whole earth is vaccinated, everybody will become healthy. No, that is also not a solution, because vaccination, how long this vaccine will be active in the body? Any vaccine which you take, the vaccine will remain strong only for 3 months to 6 months, because vaccine is again a chemical substance. Sometimes these vaccines are taken out from many animal bodies. For example, the polio vaccine, it is taken from where? Taken from horses' bodies. They inject the polio virus into the horse, and when the horse gets affected by polio, horse body develops antibodies, that is taken out and ingested into human baby's mouth. So the process of developing a vaccine is again cruel, where some other animals are going to be murdered or killed in this manner. For the human selfishness, other animals are treated badly. Almost all vaccines are in this way only. Let us say you had a chickenpox vaccine in your childhood. You still will get chickenpox after some time. There are cases where polio vaccine was ingested into the baby. Still those babies after some time got polio. This simply means that vaccination will not work lifelong. The period of vaccination is very little. It is hardly 3 to 6 months. Afterwards, the body will not develop immunity, means again virus may affect. So, first point, virus is non-living, non-moving form. Virus cannot be eradicated completely, because when it is non-moving, non-living form, it may not come in contact with the medicine also when you take a medicine. If it may not come in contact with the medicine, whatever medicine you consume, next day with the urine it goes away, or after 2 days with the urine it goes away. Virus may remain somewhere in a safe corner, if at all, if it is not coming in contact with the medicine at all. Bacteria will come in contact with the medicine, because bacteria keeps moving and bacteria will die. Virus may not die at all. Now the solution is, don't give the scope to the virus to come in contact with the living cell. How that can be done? That can be done by your regular physical exercise. Let us say through the breathing, when the virus goes into the nostril, now the virus cannot move on its own. It has to move slowly through the nasal fluid to the throat. From the throat, it has to slowly move down. From the throat, let us say it moves down to the stomach. Stomach's hydrochloric acid will destroy it, it will die, because it is a non-living chemical formula. If this coronavirus also goes into the stomach, it will immediately die, because the stomach produces hydrochloric acid. That's all. Now it is in the nose, slowly it moves. From the nose to the throat, if it has to go, it has to go with the force of the breathing air only. It cannot simply move on its own. It has to go through the fluid only. That is why they take the fluid of the throat and then they test whether there is virus existing there. Now let us say you practice Kaki Pranayama. Right now I am practicing Kaki Pranayama. When I practice Kaki Pranayama, whatever is in my throat now, it went out now. Right? It went out now. Let us say I had a cold virus in my throat. That cold virus went out now. This virus, when it goes out, it will not remain alive after about an hour if the room is having enough temperature. Let us say my room is having enough temperature. These viruses will retain their cellular appearance or cellular existence only if there is lesser temperature. If there is a higher temperature, they cannot sustain, they will simply dry, they will evaporate. It is like a soap bubble. So I practice Kaki Pranayama. Let us say I practice Kapalabhati. I practice Kapalabhati. Whatever germs are there in my nostril, they went out. Let us say I practice Kaki Pranayama. Whatever germs are in my throat, they went out. I did not give a chance for the virus to go into the lungs. Now imagine, you may say, sir, you know Kaki Pranayama, you know Kapalabhati. What about the general public? I keep on telling, physical exercise, physical exercise, physical exercise. Modi keeps on saying Yoga Abhyasa itself. Physical exercise. I have been telling to all my yoga students, regular Yoga Abhyasa, regular consumption of Chavanaprasha. These two are enough. Keep on consuming Chavanaprasha. I am going to tell you about Chavanaprasha at the end of the session, not now. Don't ask me questions now. Regular consumption of Chavanaprasha, it will keep the blood healthy. It will cleanse the blood. It will detoxify the blood. Regular practice of Yoga Abhyasa Pranayama, it will keep the lungs clean. if the lungs are clean, if the lungs are warm, virus cannot sustain. This virus cannot remain existing if the temperature is more than 25 degrees centigrade. Let us say my lungs are kept warm by my physical exercise. Let us say you don't know yoga, you don't know pranayama, it does not matter. You regularly do your physical exercise. Let the blood circulation increase. Your body remains warm. As long as the body remains warm, even if the virus goes inside also, it cannot survive there, even in the lungs. Now, it will survive in the lungs only if the lungs are cold. That is why old age people are affected. The old age people are affected because they don't have any warmth in their body. And if they don't practice physical exercise, let us say they are not into any type of physical activity, they keep on taking rest whole day, their body remains with the lesser temperature only. They are giving a scope for the body to, they are giving scope for the virus to stay there. Okay. Now remember this SMS as far as the corona is concerned. What is SMS? Sanitization, and M is what? Mask, and last S is social distancing. Just think about these three things. We keep on touching everything everywhere. You should be careful not to touch steel and glass. Generally, steel and glass are cool in nature. Unless they are exposed to sunlight, steel remains cool and glass remains cool as such. If there is a soap bubble virus here, this corona, if it is there anywhere on steel and glass, it will remain there, it will not die, it will not evaporate, because steel is cool and glass is cool as such. That is why on a steel surface or on a glass surface or on a mosaic surface also, it can stay for next 4 days. Okay, that is where the danger is. So, steel surfaces, glass surfaces, they should be regularly cleaned by means of sanitizing. This, just like you put soap into the cloth, and how the soap will remove the cloth from the, remove the dirt in the fabric by just disintegrating its formula. Same way, when you wash your hands to soap, the soap is going to destroy the virus's formula. Virus will be simply washed away. Again, remember, this is a non-living, non-moving thing. The funny thing is, for the first time, human beings are afraid of a non-moving, non-living thing, because this disease is from human to human. Even earlier, we had plague and cholera here. Plague was due to rats and cholera was due to housefly. Many thousands of people have died, even in Karnataka state. Many people have died in the 1960s, 70s just due to plague. Hassan district, half of the Hassan district was empty. So many people died, thousands of people died. It was due to rats. And then people understood that because of the unhygienic living, dirty conditions of living, drainage water everywhere, unclean lifestyle, that is when the plague virus, the cholera virus, they got infested, they got multiplied. People started living in a hygienic way. Now they don't have plague or cholera. Okay. Common cold is also a virus. Let us say in your house, somebody has a common cold. Let us say to that person nearby, you are also moving, you will get a common cold. In your family member, somebody is having a common cold, you will get a common cold. If somebody had a viral fever, other people also get a viral fever, because the person who got that viral fever, when he breathes out, the virus is coming out through his breath. That is why the social distancing now. If people are away, at least 6 feet away from each other, if somebody is breathing in the breath, if that virus is there, it will not go on its own. Only through the breathing force it comes out. And because of the gravity, it goes down. Fortunately, this particular virus has got sufficient weight. It will not remain suspended in air. It has got sufficient weight. It will not go through the movement of the wind. If the wind is not blowing heavily, it will not move further. So it will fall down. If it falls down, let us say on the road, and let us say there is a sunlight, within the next 15 minutes, the virus will die, because it will get evaporated because of the sunlight. So, if temperature is more than 25 degrees centigrade, this virus will not survive. And if the distance is there between an affected person and the next person, at least 6 feet distance, then you are safe. Now, first is sanitization, next is mask. Yeah, let us say you wear mask now. But funny thing is, if people keep on wearing masks this way, in the next 6 months, new diseases will come out because of the suffocation. Because when they wear masks, they are breathing in the same air which they breathed out. Okay, within the mask, the same air gets circulated. It will have lesser amount of oxygen, and naturally, especially the old people who keep on wearing masks, they will have a breathing difficulties. So wearing a mask is not a permanent solution. But when you go outside, you should be wearing masks because you don't know any stranger, the affected person, if anybody is there in the open atmosphere, if you go there, this mask will prevent that infested air to enter into your lungs through your nostril. So mask is about 85% risk is gone. If you wear masks outside, you need not wear this mask inside. Or you need not wear mask if you are sitting in a particular place for a long time within your own cubicle. Only when you move out, you should be careful because you don't know who is where, who is doing what. That is where the risk is. If you wear masks, only 15% risk is there. 85% risk is gone out because through the mask's fabric, the fabric or the cloth will have a very tiny hole. It's a very less chance that the virus will come through that tiny hole when you regularly keep breathing. So this is SMS, sanitization, mask and social distancing. Now the risk is, because it is from human to human only. Fortunately, this has a weight. So because of gravity, it will fall down. Now, because it is human to human, humans are afraid of humans now. Earlier, people used to get diseases due to other birds, other animals, chicken flu, all types of things they used to get. Now, humans are afraid of humans only. Point is, if the people are responsible, if people understand the risks, if people do not come in physical contact, then everybody is safe. It is the stupid people who affect themselves, and it is the stupid people due to their own movement, they are affecting others, which has no solution. As long as the stupid people keep on moving and if they keep affecting other people also, there is no solution because it takes a hell of a lot of time to detect such people, especially in countries like China and India where it is thickly populated, overpopulated. Even in the developed countries, they have failed and there were enough deaths there. But I should tell you the happy thing, in India, the death rate is hardly 3%. All over the world, the death rate is about 6%. The affected people and the dead percentage. In India, it is only 3%. All over the world, it is totally 6%. You can check the data. Now, why in India it is only 3%? Basically, three reasons. We wash our hands on a daily basis. Nobody has to tell us you wash your hands. We have a habit of washing hands on a daily basis. We have a habit of taking bath on a daily basis. That too with warm water. We take bath on a regular, Indians take bath. Morning having a bath is compulsory for almost all Indians, and that too we take bath with warm water. So when we take bath with warm water, we are inhaling enough steam through the nostril only. During your bathing process only, you are inhaling steam. So when you are inhaling steam, when the warm steam goes into the lungs also, you are not giving a chance for the virus to affect you. This virus will take 2 weeks time to manifest itself, right? If you keep taking bath on a daily basis, naturally you are not giving a scope for that. So Indians have this healthy lifestyle. Indians keep on washing their hands. Indians keep on taking bath. Third most important thing, in Indian cooking, there are enough herbs which are antiviral. Coriander, cumin seeds, cloves, garlic, onion, curry leaves, turmeric. These are all having antiviral property. They keep the blood clean and pure. So in our regular cooking itself, we have enough ingredients which are antiviral in nature. If these are there in the blood, then naturally there is a less chance. That is why in the Indian context, death percentage is lesser. Because, again, why? Because of Charaka Sushruta. Swastha Sadachara Sutra. In the Ayurveda, in the Ashtanga Hridaya, Vagbhata told, take bath daily. That is why people are taking bath daily. That time itself they had told, use turmeric, use curry leaves, use coriander, use cumin seeds during your cooking, use mustard seeds. They had told in Ayurveda itself. Use cloves, they have told. That is when we have been using them. That is where we have immunity. Okay. So in India, already the risk is less this way. The people who die are the people who, either old people who are not keeping their body warm. Ayurveda says at least twice in a month or once in a week, Tailabhyanga Snana. It says apply oil, medicated oil, Mahanarayana Taila, Kshirabala Taila. Use those oils, apply them throughout the surface of your body. Then take hot water bath. It will improve the circulation in the body like anything. Those are all very healthy practices. I am going to tell you all those practices in future also, in this session only. That's why I told people who became upset because of my yesterday's discussion, if they leave my meeting, they are at a heavy loss. Again, it is their decision. I cannot help them. Now, in India, because of these healthy practices, the risk is very less. So, follow these SMS: sanitization, mask, and social distancing. Don't travel much in locomotives, like crowded locomotives. As much as possible, if in your own car you are traveling, travel alone. If at all in your car, don't allow any other strangers. And if you are traveling in a bike, travel alone. I am traveling in my bike only. I am daily going to college and coming back. But I have my own style like this. I go by bike, I come by bike. There is a very less chance or very less probability that when I travel on the road, in front of me, 6 feet away, there is a corona affected person. That is very, very rare chance. Bangalore population is 1.3 crores. Let us say 1.3 lakhs get affected. There is a very less chance that when I move on the road, in front of me, there is a corona affected patient who is also traveling in a bike. Very less chance. That is where social distancing. But you should be careful when you go to hotels or malls or crowded places when people are there. We don't know. There may be an affected person who may affect you. But I will tell you, my lifestyle, I never used to attend any big functions. I have stopped going to all these public functions 15-20 years before itself. It is not new for me. I prefer to stay alone at home, keep on reading books and keep on meditating, keep on thinking of the Lord, being in divine communion with my own self. I will be very happy if me and Lord are together. So, if people can develop such discipline, you will not get affected. It is not that everyone will get affected. Those who get exposed, they will get affected. They give their own chance to get exposed. Now, we have to go to our workplaces every day, because this cannot go on like this. This drama will go on at least for the next 1 year now. Just like earlier when plague cholera came, at least for 1 year, it took its own time to become stabilized. Now also, at least for the next 1 year, whole earth will be affected. Humans will be affected, not others. All others are happy now. Humans are affected. Now, unless humans are educated about what is this particular pandemic and how to remain hygienic, how to live a quality lifestyle, how to control sense organs, and how to remain calm, how to understand their own body. If they understand that, people remain healthy. But I'll tell you one thing: those who fear death are already dead. Those who fear death are already dead, because you cannot escape death. You can escape disease, you cannot escape death. Whether you are rich, whether you are poor, whether you are stupid, whether you are wise, all of us have to die one day. Question comes, if we live, how we live? Adi Shankara lived only 32 years. Swami Vivekananda lived only 39 years. What they did? Adi Shankara did the work of 4 lifetimes in 1 lifetime. In those 32 years, Ashtavarshe Chaturvedi, Dwadashe Sarvashastravit, Shodashe Kritavan Bhashyam, Dvatrimshe Munirabhyagat. What a great achievement he did in the age of 32 years. Only a lifespan of 32 years. Swami Vivekananda, what a great work he did. He lived only for 39 years. They have really lived. Even now, they are physically dead, but they are now alive in all our minds. We remember them. Whenever I remember Adi Shankara, I get goosebumps. Jagat Guru, he is a true Jagat Guru. I'll tell about him later, not now. So, those who fear death are already dead. You cannot escape death. If you want to live healthily, healthy practices, healthy food, healthy physical exercises, and SMS, sanitization, mask, social distancing. You follow this, regularly consume Chyawanprash, and don't mix with people as such. As much as possible, remain isolated from people. That is the best way to remain safe and healthy. I think I have answered all the questions which you would have been asking. Okay, in the chat box, there are some questions. Let me see. It's already 9 o'clock now. I'm going to end. What is the difference between bacteria and virus? I have already told, no? The difference between bacteria and virus, I have already told enough. Bacteria is a moving organism. Bacteria has life. Virus is non-moving and non-living chemical formula, just like a soap bubble. That's all. So Gopi asked me a question, define consciousness in a layman's term. I cannot. Bacteria has consciousness. Virus does not have any consciousness. So that is the difference between them. So in a layman's term, if at all we say what is consciousness, I cannot define now. It's a completely spiritual term. We will discuss about it when we come to my fourth presentation. Okay, there is a next question. In Kerala, there is a Kottakkal Arya Vaidyashala. Is Chyawanprash from Kottakkal Arya Vaidyashala is good to consume? Also, other Ayurvedic medicine from the Vaidyashala is good? No. Yes. But Kottakkal is slightly stronger. I have consumed the Kottakkal Chyawanprash also. It is slightly stronger. In general, the Ayurvedic pharmacies from Kerala, all of them use this oil. What is that oil? Sesame oil. They use sesame oil along with other ingredients. The sesame oil is basically causing more heat into the body. So almost all of these pharmacies, including Kottakkal or Nagarjuna or Vaidyaratnam, their medicines or their rasayanas are slightly strong and potent. So if you are accustomed to Kottakkal, you can consume. But my advice of Chyawanprash is best is SN Pandit Mysore. SN Pandit Ashtavarga Yukta Chyawanprash. That is best because I have been consuming Chyawanprash from last 15 years. I have tried all the brands. Then I have zeroed in 3 best Chyawanprash. First best is SN Pandit Mysore. Second best is Organic India. Third best is Sri Sri Ayurveda. These are the 3 best products. If you are curious, you can also try with all other brands and you can find out your own favorite brand. It is not that whatever I tell you should follow. It is not that way. Kottakkal is good that way. But only thing is, you may have to consume a little more milk or a little more ghee when you consume Chyawanprash. Okay. Other Ayurvedic medicine from this Vaidyashala, they are also good. In fact, they are all very prompt people. I observed the Ayurvedic pharmacies. In general, all Ayurvedic pharmacies are honest and truthful. They don't cheat people in the name of medicines. And even in Kerala, God's own country with the devil's own people, no? Isn't it? I don't know. But in Kerala, it is a God's own country where lot of herbs are available, medicinal herbs are available. And because of the availability of medicinal herbs, they produce very good medicines. Okay, fine. Next question. Like killing animals for God's sake, there are also other things like walking on fire, putting hole in the body with knife and lot more like this. I'm wondering how these come into practice. That is not the question for this particular presentation, my dear. You keep asking such questions only. I have told you to wait till the fourth presentation where we discuss only spirituality, nothing else. This presentation is only for the art and science of eating. Otherwise, I keep on discussing this question now. Again, we are diverting or digressing into some other domain. Again, some of my audience will leave my presentation now also. Because they are more worried about their own personal health, nothing else. Most of the audience, when they register for my presentation, they are not much worried about spirituality, God, or whatever. They are only worried about their present problems. Okay. So, this question you note down, you remember. If at all you come to my fourth session, there we will discuss in detail because I am damn sure that For my fourth session, only you and me, only we two will be there. No others may be there. That is when I get the laughter. Okay. Okay. I could not tell the story today because of the discussion of the virus. I'll tell you the story on Monday. Sunday, again, I have my classes here, due to which I'll not be conducting this session. See you all on Monday. Whatever I have told, remember it, practice it, stay healthy, stay safe. We will meet again on Monday.